It was a quiet evening on the outskirts of New Mexico. The sky burned orange as the sun sank behind the desert hills, casting long shadows across a small roadside diner called Maggie's Place. The sign flickered old but proud, much like the man who ran it. Jack Mercer, a single dad and retired U.S. Army veteran, wiped down the counter with quiet focus. To the locals, he was just the diner guy. Polite, steady, always smiling. Few knew that years ago he'd been something else entirely, a ghost in the system, a legend in Delta Force operations. Now, his only mission was raising his teenage daughter, Lily, and keeping their tiny diner alive. The bell over the door jingled. 3 strangers walked in. Hard eyes, expensive boots, tattoos snaking up their necks. Not from around here. Jack's instincts flared instantly. He'd seen that look before, in war zones. They took a booth in the corner. One of them glanced at Jack, his grin sharp as a knife. "Nice place you got here, old man," he said, his voice heavy with threat masked as charm. Jack nodded calmly. "Coffee? Sure," the man said. "And maybe a word in private." Lily, behind the counter, froze. Jack gave her a reassuring smile. "It's fine, sweetheart. Go help Mrs. Henderson in the back." When she left, the man leaned forward. "You're gonna help us?" he said. "We're running product through this area. Quiet road, small town, no cops. We'll pay you, or we'll burn this place down." Jack's hand tightened around the coffee pot, but his voice stayed calm. "This is a family diner, not for sale." The man's grin vanished. "You sure about that, Abulo?" Jack met his gaze. "I'm sure." They left, but not before one of them whispered, "We'll be back tonight." That night, after Lily went to bed, Jack stood alone in the kitchen. His reflection in the window showed a man tired of violence, yet ready to face it once more if needed. He opened a drawer under the counter and pulled out a small worn case. Inside lay a combat knife and a folded patch that read, "Delta Far C Ghost Uint." He'd buried that part of himself years ago, but some ghosts never die. He checked the locks, turned off the lights, and waited. Sometime after midnight the headlights came, 2 trucks, engines low. 5 men got out, carrying weapons. They kicked in the door and stormed the diner, shouting in Spanish. But Jack wasn't behind the counter. The lights flickered, then went out completely. A voice, low and calm, came from the shadows. "You boys picked the wrong diner." One man spun around, too slow. Jack's arm hooked him, slammed him into the wall. Another swung a rifle. Jack dropped, rolled, and sent a coffee pot crashing into his face. In seconds the small diner became a battlefield. But Jack wasn't fighting for medals now. He was fighting for home. Then, a voice cried out from outside. Lily had woken up hearing the chaos. She stood by the door, terrified. Jack froze, and that pause cost him. One of the cartel men raised his gun. A shot rang out. But it wasn't from the cartel. It was from the sheriff, an old friend of Jack's, Tom Willis, who'd been quietly patrolling nearby. Jack had called him earlier just in case. Within minutes, the sheriff's team surrounded the diner, taking down the remaining men. The sheriff turned to Jack as dawn broke. "You could have told me you were that Jack Mercer, the ghost himself." Jack gave a weary smile. "That guy's gone. Just a cook now?" Tom chuckled. "Yeah, you just took down a cartel squad with a coffee pot and a kitchen knife." Jack shrugged. "Old habits." The next morning, locals gathered around the diner, shocked to see the damage. Lily stood beside her father, tears in her eyes. "You didn't have to fight them, Dad," she whispered. He smiled softly. "When people threaten your home, your family, you stand up. That's what your mom believed." A woman from town stepped forward, pressing a few dollar bills into Jack's hand. "For repairs," she said. "This place means something to all of us." One by one, others joined in, a wave of kindness that no enemy could ever defeat. Within a week, Maggie's Place reopened. The community helped repaint, rebuild, and revive it, stronger than before. A month later, a young soldier stopped by the diner. "Sir," he said shyly, "are you the Jack Mercer? My unit heard about what happened. You're a legend." Jack smiled and poured him coffee. "Son, legends are just men who tried to do the right thing, even when it was hard." Lily looked up at him with pride, realizing her father's quiet strength came not from violence, but from love. As the evening sun dipped low again, the diner's neon sign flickered to life, steady and bright. Jack looked around the busy room filled with laughter, chatter, and the smell of fresh coffee. He'd once been a ghost of war. Now he was a beacon of hope, proof that even the most haunted souls can find peace when they choose compassion over chaos. And outside, carved into the old diner's doorframe, someone had etched the words, "Home of the Ghost. Defender of the People." Jack just smiled. Maybe some ghosts deserve to be remembered. Days turned into weeks, and life at Maggie's place slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after a night like that. The bullet holes were patched, the broken glass replaced, and the scent of strong coffee once again filled the air each morning. But something had changed. People who used to just grab their coffee and go now stayed a little longer, talking with Jack, sharing stories, offering to help with repairs or cook on busy days. The diner had become more than a stop on the road. It was now a symbol of resilience, of standing tall against fear. Jack, though humble as ever, carried a quiet gratitude in his eyes. The same man who had once fought invisible wars now fought with kindness, one smile, one meal at a time. Every morning, he would set a plate by the window, pancakes and eggs, and whisper, "For you, Maggie," before starting the day. It was a small ritual for his late wife, a reminder of the promise he made her to give Lily the life they both dreamed of. One evening, just before closing, Jack noticed a beat-up car parked outside for hours. Inside sat a young man, nervous, unshaven, staring at the diner's glowing sign. Jack walked out, wiping his hands on his apron. "You coming in, son?" he asked gently. The man hesitated before stepping out. You don't know me," he began. "But one of the guys from that night. He was my brother." Jack's muscles tensed, but the man quickly raised his hands. "He made bad choices. But you didn't kill him. You spared him when you could have ended it. He told me that before he went to prison." Jack stayed silent. The man's voice cracked. "He said you looked him in the eye and said, 'You can still walk away.' No one ever gave him that kind of mercy before. He's clean now. Working, trying to do better. I just wanted to thank you." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Jack nodded slowly. "People change when someone believes they can," he said softly. "Tell your brother I'm glad he did." As the young man drove away, Lily stepped beside her father. "You saved a man's soul that night, didn't you?" she asked. Jack smiled faintly. "Maybe he saved mine too."